Can silence keep its oath longer than a winter? Can a ribbon of night, tight as a breath held in a chest, become the shape of judgment? And can Christmas bells, meant to soften the world, ring so gently that they fail to wake the truth sleeping on the stairs? Maryland, 1828, frost writing pale scriptures on every window, chimneys murmuring to themselves, a house that groans like a tired animal under the weight of its own secrets. Somewhere within it a ledger lies open, ink dried, numbers neat, a master's hand sure, but there is another ledger no pen can see, scored into skin, kept in bone, line after line of what has been taken and never returned. Tonight that ledger rises to be read aloud without a single word. Before we step deeper into this house of breath and oath, pause here with me, at the threshold where the stair creaks and the candle shakes. If you want to follow real stories that defy time and reveal hidden truths, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our investigations. We move quiet as frost, we carry only memory, and memory, when winter is long enough, learns how to use its hands. In daylight the house pretends it is ordinary, the yard opens itself like a book of chores, wood to split, ashes to carry, water hauled up in buckets whose handles coldly bite the fingers. The river keeps its distance, winding through the fields as if it were a careful guest, never raising its voice. Geese sketch their arrows across the pale sky. The great house stands at the centre like a verdict, square-shouldered, whitewashed, composed, a face that never blushes no matter what it sees. Morning begins with the bell. It has an emery, that bell metal that has swallowed years of commands and carried them outward on the air until even the crows understood. Its tongue knocks the hour into the ribs of the place, and everybody moves. The chimneys cough, the kitchen swells to life like a tide, iron grates warmed, kettles breathing, biscuit dough pressed into rounds with tired palms. The pantry smells of vinegar and apples, of salt meat and patience. Keys clatter at a white hand's waist. The sound is a small crown that the house has learned to bow to. Peter knows the sound. He knows them all, the whisper of feathers when a pillow is shaken in the parlour, the small betrayals of floorboards in the east corridor, the proud snap of a new hinge on the counting-room door. He carries these sounds like weather. They help him read the day. He was not born to this house, but the house believes it has worn him in like he has learned its grammar, which stair complains, which latch sighs, which window sticks on damp mornings as if reluctant to face the world. Winter rearranges everything. Frost turns breath into little ghosts that hurry ahead of a body and vanish. The river acquires a new voice, thin and glassy. Trees write with empty hands against the sky. The fields are asleep, but even a sleeping field keeps its eyes half open. There are tracks everywhere. Deer bright as commas, fox quick as a signature, men heavy as sentences. The laundry line freezes stiff, shirts hardening into a row of pale flags that salute nothing. Inside, heat is rationed like mercy. Kitchen warmth spills and thins, never quite reaching the rooms where hands are not meant to shiver. The master does not shiver. He drinks heat from the bottle as if it were a private sun. He speaks, and the house leans toward him. His laugh is a drawer that slams shut. He believes in numbers, in the tidy stripes of a whip, in the arithmetics of fear. He wears the bell like a watch inside his blood. 1 strike to rouse, 2 to summon, 3 to punish, 4 to warn. On Sundays he sits straight-backed in church and lets God polish his name. Peter keeps other Sabbaths. They occur at odd hours, at the washtub when hands go underwater and the world's noise dulls, under the porch where spiders stitch patient treaties between nail and beam, in the smokehouse when darkness stands that extra inch closer and breath is seasoned with salt and old thunder. He knows that every corner in this place has a ghost of a sound, speaking to beam, hook to chain, lock to key. He listens, not as a man listens to save himself, but as a man listens who means to remember. On some mornings the frost draws fine white ferns on the window of the little room where he sleeps. He traces them with a finger and they melt at once, leaving no proof, but the cold engraves other things more deeply, names of the taken, days with no bread, the slab where meat is weighed heavier for some and lighter for others, the way the master's boots pause at thresholds, smelling power, the way a hound smells blood. The house is a creature and he knows its moods. It puffs in contentment after supper. It grinds its teeth when wind pries at its eaves. Sometimes it dreams boards shifting, nails murmuring, walls settling into themselves like a tired body. Some nights he thinks it dreams of fire. Other nights he thinks it dreams of water. But lately, as December leans in with its iron breath, he can hear it dream of a cord pulled tight enough to make a truce. The women sew under the lamplight, thread whispering through cloth like a tiny river. The boys carry wood with faces already learning to be older. Old people move carefully through the day, as if not to spill what is left of them. There is a rhythm to this place that claims it was set long before any one person arrived, and will continue long after any one person is gone. That is the lie a house tells when it is used to getting its way. Christmas approaches with its varnish. Ribbons appear where there were none, a roast is promised, then rehearsed. The silver is awakened from sleep and made to grin. The master's wife counts spices like coins. Pine boughs are brought in, and their sharp perfume briefly overrides the old smells, as if to say, see, it is a different world now, just for a week. A choir of carols gathers at the edges of things, on wagon tongues, along fences, in the chill breath of animals, never quite becoming a song. Laughter floats, a little drunk with itself. The bell rings with holiday manners, but a bell cannot change its voice. The ledger on the master's desk looks innocent enough. It lies open the way a mouth does after a long speech. Names, dates, quantities, debits and credits that do not include birthdays, do not include last words, do not include how the skin of a back forgets its own name when it learns a whip. Peter has dusted that desk, has held the ledger to white beneath, has felt its patient weight. He has never needed to read it. The numbers are so clean they make their own cold. Yet he knows his own ledger by heart, and it is not neat. It is written in days and aches, and the blank after a name is called, and no voice answers. The house thinks it knows Peter. It knows the slow humility of his steps when he is seen. It knows the strength that has been rented out in day's labour and returned sore, as if strength were an animal that has been hunted all night. But it does not know the way he counts. It does not know that behind every task he performs there is a second task. He is measuring the length of a stair tread, the span of the master's reach, the time a candle lasts when it is pinched low, the give in a curtain cord, the softness of a muffled bell. If you had asked him, he would not have said the word fate. He would have said winter. Winter is what teaches a man to be exact. I learned to hold my breath before I learned to read. In the dark, under a porch, a boy can make his lungs behave. Grant slow, and the world will pass you by like a wagon. I learned to still a cough with my thumb pressed hard beneath my tongue. I learned the difference between a door that is closed and a door that is listening. These lessons are not mine alone. They are inherited like a scar that looks like a crooked smile. There is a ledger in this place that is not kept on paper. It is kept in the mouth, the tooth missing here, the word missing there. It is kept in the ribs, the place that twinges when a laugh is too free. I carry it. Every day writes another line. The entries are not elegant, they are the weight of a bucket. When the water has sloshed out, you still have to lift it. They are the burnt blister on a palm that no one sees because you are good at hiding your hands. They are a name said to you like it is something cheap. Once my sister Ruth sang while she worked, a little tune that had no words, just a ribbon of sound, shy and bright. The master told her the tune made the chickens nervous. He said this with a smile, but his hand travelled to his belt as if his hand had more truth than his mouth. She stopped singing. The air lay down flat. I wrote that down, not with pen. My blood wrote it, a small line that hardened like wire. Once, snow fell while we were in the field, flakes so quiet it felt like they respected us. He came out to watch, and for a moment even he seemed surprised by the soft of it. Then he laughed and told us not to mistake beauty for mercy. He said this, and the snow kept falling, and I thought, he is right, beauty is not mercy. I wrote down the day my mother's breath began to sound like the bellows in the forge, and nobody could spare time to make it easier. I wrote down the morning a boy not yet 12 returned from a day's hire with blood dried in the creases of his mouth, as if he had bitten his own name to keep from saying it. There are marks on my back, but they are not the ledger. The ledger lives where no eye can see it when I am clothed. It lives where I keep my count. I have been patient not because patience is noble, but because patience is a tool. Some tools are iron, some are rope, some are silence. Silence is the only tool the house does not know the weight of. It believes silence belongs to it. It does not understand that I have been borrowing silence and shaping it to my hands. I have studied this house the way a man studies a tree he means to climb at night, not for its beauty, but for its knocks. How far between branches, how rough the bark is where it will take skin if you hurry. The master's habits are a liturgy. He peels his fruit in one teasing strip and smiles when it does not break. He counts money by setting it into tidy little towers and patting their heads, as if the coins were children arranged for a portrait. He keeps his brandy in the second cabinet, left side, and he locks it even when he is alone. He trusts only what he can hear obey him. On market days, when my feet carried me farther than the fence posts, I learned other sounds. The loose plank near the coopers, the stack of cordwood that was hollow in the middle so it looked more than it was, the way snow hushes a crowd from the ankles up. I learned that rope will tell you its life if you listen. Some rope is tired and frays if you glare at it. Some rope is quiet and keeps a secret. Some rope sings when it is pulled. There is a cord on the bell that will take a man's weight if a man takes it in both hands and leans his whole life into it. I touched it once when no one watched. It was smooth with years of palms. It did not resist me. Night teaches my fingers a grammar the day forbids. Knots that close gently and then will not open. Knots that close like a prayer and do not let go of what they have blessed. I practice with scraps. I carry string in my pocket and tie a little confession and untie it. I watch the women sew and see how a seam can be neat as a lie. I learn the word garrote without anyone saying it to me, only by the memory of hands that once held a neck, by the way my own hands hunger to know how strong they are when they are quiet. The ledger grows heavier in winter. The master drinks more then and thinks the world softer because the fire obeys him. Once he told me to stand by the hearth until he finished telling a story. It was long and not worth the telling. Smoke stained my throat and I coughed once, small as I could make it. "Must I teach your lungs manners," he said, and let the room laugh. The laugh slid down my back like a damp rag. I wrote that down. It was not the worst of things, but ledgers are not made of worst things. They are made of all things. I do not speak of freedom because the word is too sharp and the air around here is thin. I speak of finishing, a page, a season, the way night ends. I speak of how a knot can mean the end of something. I speak of how a bell that has rung for one kind of morning can be instructed just once to announce another. I have no taste for blood and no thirst for spectacle. My thirst is for exactness. If a debt is a shape, let payment be the same shape. His hands taught us what fear can do to a body. My hands will teach him what silence can do to a breath. The old ones say, "Wait." The young ones say, "Run." I listen to both and do neither. I listen to the house. It has begun to breathe differently when he drinks. It sleeps with its mouth open. It has stopped being surprised when his boots walk alone at night to visit the cabinet that keeps his private son. He dozes in a chair sometimes, head back, throat proud like a lord's stone name. Pride leaves the neck unguarded. That is its weakness. I write that down. Christmas is coming and the house is learning a false language. Joy without apology. I do not trust joy that must be rehearsed. I trust the weight of a chord in my hands. I trust how a knot remembers what it was asked to hold. I trust winter to keep secrets when asked. Tonight I count again, not sheep, not stars. I count the seconds it takes for a man to sigh after he swallows heat. I count the steps from chair to hearth, from hearth to bell, from bell to stair. I count the breaths inside my chest until the one that feels like it was made for work. The ledger is nearly full. I turn the page and find there is still room for a signature. Preparation is not anger, it is carpentry. I begin where a carpenter begins, with measurement. A week before Christmas, I oil the hinge on the small door that sticks. No one notices the absence of its complaint. A house learns to forgive a good servant his improvements. I rub the hinge with bacon grease saved in a folded scrap of cloth. Metal takes kindness quietly. I sand a patch on the back stair with a stone until the grain that snared my step becomes as smooth as an old palm. I learn the inch where the third stair from the top will not speak if my weight is placed just so. I practice that placement in my mind until my mind becomes a foot. The bell rope is not mine to touch, but I have touched it. I know its fibres have been polished by a town's worth of summons. In summer it will sting the hand that tries to climb it. In winter it will accept a grip the way snow accepts the boot print that means something serious has begun. I do not intend to climb it. I intend to make of it a straight line, beginning and end without mercy where it crosses a throat. A rope thinks it was born to be a distance. I will teach it how to be an answer. In the laundry I find the old linen sheet that has become more whole than cloth. I cut a length that could be mistaken for bandage. I pull it into a strip that does not look like it could do harm. I wet it, twist it, and let it dry. Wet linen twisted and dried remembers the ocean it never saw. It becomes a quiet muscle. I wrap again and again around a stick until it is tight as a secret, then slide it off and tuck it into a corner high in the pantry where only I ever look. I can reach there without the stool. My arms know that height. A child would think it was nothing more than rag for polishing silver. In the workshop I find the little wooden wedge that keeps a door from closing on a breeze. I carve it thinner with a paring knife until it will bite a door from the inside and keep it still, the way a man might bite his own lip to stop a noise from escaping. I sand it with the edge of my patience until it is the colour of the shadows where it will sit. I rub it with ash so it looks older than it is. I practice placing it with 2 fingers, in and out. I do not intend for doors to speak tonight. I make a habit of touching things without moving them. The brass key that hangs from the nail beside the pantry, the curtain cord that lifts and lowers the parlour's winter light. The new cord is stronger than the old. Someone is proud of this improvement. It says, "Pull me and I will obey." I pull it once alone when I am sent to dust. It does more than obey, it hums. The hum tells me it will not snap and leave me with a handful of apology. I thank it without words and let it fall back into its gentle loop. I keep a small sack of sand. People who have never needed quiet do not know what a good friend sand can be. A handful poured across a floor turns footsteps into a rumour instead of a report. I practice the pour between finger and thumb, making a light road that the eye will not see even if the eye kneels down to look. The master sees only the things he owns. He does not see what the night owns. I study his evenings. The bottle lives behind a door he locks with ceremony, even when no one is present to see the ceremony. He does not drink with his mouth hidden. He lets the liquor give him back to himself, louder and shorter. His boots acquire that particular stagger on pride that is not clumsy yet. He travels from chair to desk, from desk to window, to see if the world is still there to witness him. He adjusts the bell, not because it needs it, but because his hands like being the reason things hang straight. I decide the time, not at midnight, which is theatre, not at 10, which is household, after the hearth logs sigh and before the embers sulk, after the wife's lamp has been put to bed and before the house remembers to dream. A narrow hour, like a throat, I rehearse the room. Food tastes of wood when a man is counting instead. I count the ways a chair can scrape and how to keep it from speaking. I count the squares on the rug and decide which will be safe to step on when he stands quickly, and which will betray me with a curl that has never lain flat. I straighten that curl with a hot spoon when I am alone. The curl yields to heat like all proud things. I practice hands. My hands had been taught to serve. They must learn to decide. I grip the strip of linen and pull until my wrists ache. I pull against a beam in the smokehouse, not with hate but with mathematics. I learn where my shoulders must stand so the cord takes my weight instead of my wrists, so my wrists are messengers, not martyrs. I pull until my heart believes my hands are trustworthy. In the morning I am obedient and dull. It is important to be seen and not remembered. The house counts on that. The day wears its small ornaments, jokes polished with use, orders given with old muscle. I carry the weight of tomorrow's night in my chest, but nobody notices because a chest has always been the place a man hides things. On the day itself, I carry my face like a bowl that is full to the rim and cannot afford a spill. I fetch, I step back, I nod. The pine boughs are beginning to tire of their own perfume. Laughter repeats itself. The mistress scolds the dog gently for begging. He rests his hand on the back of her chair and pats once, distractedly, as if she were a piece of furniture that has served him well. She does not turn to feel it. He looks toward the cabinet, and I can see the way the thought walks to it and takes a seat inside. Twilight knits the house to itself with long grey thread. Windows forget to reflect. The yard turns into a listening bowl. Far off, some other bell reports some other hour. In our house, the bell is only a shape against the dark. I excuse myself to the pantry with an armful of nothing, because emptiness is the best disguise for purpose. I reach high, and the strip of linen settles into my palm like it was cut from my own shirt. I fold it and fold it again till it looks like a napkin waiting for a lap. I slide it inside my sleeve. The cloth is cooler than my skin and learns my warmth quickly. In my pocket, the little wedge, the sack of sand, in my mouth, one steady breath. I do not pray the way he prays. I ask the house to forget me. The house, full of winter and pride, obliges. When I pass the mirror, it is tired and has no interest in recording me. I are a shadow among shadows, a necessary dark. He has gone to the cabinet. He has taken his private son into his mouth. He has returned to the chair with the tall back that makes every man look like a tall man. He sets his boots apart the way a man does who has done that thing all his life. Plant, measure, own the inches. He looks at the fire and sees only himself, smaller and burning. I pour a breath of sand across the boards between us. The sound is not a sound, it is an absence of sound. Exactly what I came to collect. This house has taught me all I need to teach it in return. The room smells of orange peel and wet pine, of ash and the iron taste of old winter. Shadows climb the wall like slow ivy, choosing their bricks with patience. The fire is an old animal now, head on paws, half listening. His chair faces it, his neck is a pale column in the glow, undecorated, a man who has never had to think of his own throat. I come as if I were bringing a log, a servant carrying heat to a master who insists on it. My steps are edited by sand, the rug does not scold, the air parts and leaves no record. He does not turn. He is drunk in that way that keeps a man's pride upright while letting his senses lounge. He says something to the fire as if the fire were a clerk. Numbers, perhaps. Account settled, account due. I do not collect his words. I have my own accounting to finish. I place the small wedge at the door behind me with 2 fingers, and the door becomes obedient to me instead of the hallway. The house knows many masters. Tonight I am one of them. He hears the small touch of linen, or perhaps he feels the room change the way an animal does when weather shifts. He begins to turn, not quickly like a man who believes any interruption will wait for him to finish turning. That is how he has lived. I am grateful to him for this final lesson. Pride makes the first second easy. The cloth meets his throat the way winter meets a pond, firm, with purpose, without ceremony. My hands do what they have rehearsed. The strip is a sentence, and I pull it to its period. He makes a sound that is not a word and not a cry. It is the body's private language for surprise. I think of counting, and then I do not think. There is only work. The cord learns his shape and refuses to return it. He is not small. He has the kind of strength that has never met its own limit. He believes that strength is a key that opens any lock. He reaches for my wrist, for my face, for any lever he can find. He finds only silence, for any face, for any lever he cannot name. The house breathes around us. Boards, plaster, air warmed by a day of lies. It has witnessed many things and understands none of them. Tonight it is being taught a new prayer. Do not shout. He stamps once, twice. A boot heel asks the floor to intervene, and the floor declines. The wedge holds the door in a little pact of stillness. His hands learn my hands and find them unyielding. The cord bites the space where a voice is born. I have tied the knot that closes like a decision. It will not learn to be kind just because a neck begs it. I am not cruel, I am accurate. The ledger does not ask for blood, it asks for completion. The breath that has ordered bells and bodies learns that air is not a servant. The face reddens and then purples. The eyes that have read numbers now read the ceiling, which has nothing to say. Time changes its size. Seconds become the long hallway of a courthouse. Then they shrink to the space between a pulse and its next echo. I have my knee where it must be. I have my weight where it belongs. He tries to stand with the chair, and I give way where I must, and I deny where I must. The cord does the rest, obedient to the geometry we rehearsed together, my hands and it on nights when work had made my body empty enough to be filled with plans. His mouth opens like a cupboard. Nothing inside it is useful now. He would be angry if he were a little less busy. The fire throws a little orange at his cheek like an insult. The bell in the hall does not ring, it only watches, a dumb moon hanging in a dark sky of wood. At the last his fingers find my sleeve as if I were a familiar thing he could command back into place. But sleeves are not servants either. There is a point at which the struggle changes its name. It is not fight, it is a taper burning down. There is only so much wick. The human machine is elegant, and it is simple. I feel the tremor that is not resistance, but the body returning its keys. I do not loosen because loosening is how a story grows a tail and returns to bite. I do not harden because the work is already hard enough. I hold. When stillness arrives, it does so without flourish, no thunder, no choir. The chair leans against the end of a sentence and stays there. The house exhales. The fire, bored, looks back at its own feet. I lift my hands away from his throat with the care a man uses to set down an infant, because anything done by hand deserves not to be dropped. The linen has done its duty and returned to being cloth. I fold it once, twice, so that its shape looks harmless again. It is a napkin now. It will always be a napkin, even if I burn it later. I check the room for evidence that belongs to a story I do not want told. The rug's curl remains tamed. The sand is a thin blessing that no eye will count. The wedge still holds the door's temper. The chair will tell a small lie about how it came to lean. The brandy will confess excess, not interruption. On the mantel, the small clock continues its exactness, indifferent to miracles. In the hall, the bell's rope hangs very still. I considered touching it once to let the house hear what kind of hour this is. I do not. Silence is the sound I came for. When I remove the wedge, the door remembers it is only a door. The hallway smells like cold and pine. Upstairs, another life sleeps that has borrowed this man's surname like a coat. It will wake wearing it again, and the morning will hand it hot coffee and a gentle lie. I leave the room as if I were returning a borrowed. A night can hold only so much. I have filled it. Morning insists on happening. It comes like a polite guest that knocks and then opens the door anyway. The house accuses the light of impropriety by narrowing its windows to slits. The kitchen begins itself because work is a body that wakes even when the mind refuses. He is found by a voice that has spent a life being careful and now loses its care. The first scream is not a scream, it is a note held too long by a throat that does not know the song. Then the screams learn their work and multiply. The bell at last rings. It rings the same way it rings for supper and storm and Sabbath. It does not have a tone for this. The sound runs into the yard and climbs the cold air like a ladder, and neighbours, those who live close to the sound of this house, look up from their fires and straighten. A bell is a creditor that collects attention whether you owe it or not. Men come. They come carrying their opinions like lanterns that have already been lit. They do not question what they know. They know that a man like him dies in ways that do not trouble the words used to describe him. He fell, he choked, God took him, misadventure, providence. But the marks on the throat are not gentle. They ask to be read by eyes that have never had to spell this kind of sentence. The doctor is fetched. He opens his satchel as if it were an attorney. He peers, he frowns in that learned way that says he is already above the thing he studies. He pronounces and does not pronounce. Interference, he says, a word that means nothing and everything. Some agent, an unfortunate event. It may be that spirits, the brandy. The room grows heavy with the desire to let an explanation do the work of truth. Questions gather like flies. Who last saw him? When did he last ring? Did he walk in his sleep? Did the chair betray him? Did his own hand, uncertain in drink, teach the cord a lesson? The women clutch at their collars. The mistress cries without allowing her face to be used by grief. Her tears move obediently, not wildly. Someone whispers evil, someone whispers judgment. Someone says someone says sign. The words do their small parades and then settle into corners to eavesdrop on themselves. Rumour, which keeps a change of clothes for every season, dresses quickly. In town by noon there are already two versions, that he died of his appetites or that he died of a stranger's. By evening there will be a third which blames the house. Houses are convenient suspects. They never sue for slander. We, those of us whose names decorate the margins of other people's lists, keep our faces still. We do not volunteer our throats to speaking. We pass buckets, we move chairs. We received orders that have forgotten their master and are now merely echo. We are sent here and there the way leaves are sent by wind, in the quiet places where wind pauses, behind sheds, by the woodpile, under the line of laundry that will not dry today. Our eyes meet and then look down as if we have pulled something too bright into them. There are no smiles. There is a shared knowledge that is not triumph. It is, if anything, relief shaped like a stone that must be carried carefully. The constable comes because someone telephoned him with their mouth at his door. He writes in a small book. He asks me a question and I answer with the portion of truth that belongs to the day. I was in the pantry. I sharpened a knife. I took ash to the garden. I heard the bell when it rang. He observes my hands as if my hands might confess. Hands do not speak to men like him. They speak to work and to justice, and to the places where justice has had to learn to be quiet. The newspaper man arrives like winter's thin sun, lukewarm, persistent, hungry for what it cannot taste. He looks around the room as if paragraphs will leap into his pockets if he opens them wide enough. He writes down words that will be read by people who have never smelled ash at dawn. He will put the word tragedy in italics without knowing whether it points forward or backward. He might say shocking. He might say untimely. He will not say earned. His paper cannot afford that kind of exactness. By afternoon, a story is invented that requires no villain. It is a fine story because it allows the living to remain who they were yesterday. He drank, he slept, the chair shifted, the cord caught, air forgot itself. The widow in her new mathematics accepts the story that asks for the fewest subtractions. The constable returns his pencil to its hat. The doctor closes his case with a brave click. The bell, exhausted, hangs like a secret that will not be invited to supper for a while. In the quarters, after dark, there is talk that is not talk, a phrase left on a table, the way a cloth is left to dry, a breath that is more than a breath. An old man says that winter teaches accuracy. A woman rocking a child says nothing and everything with the way her foot keeps time. The child sleeps as if the air has been lightened by one weight removed. We do not sing, we do not gloat, those are summer's games. We sit with our backs to the wind and let the night come in and out of us like a tide. I wash the strip of linen in lye and water until it remembers it was never anything else. Then I burn it anyway, because fire is the best forgetter. Ash looks the same no matter what it was before. I pour the ash into the path where chickens scratch. They will write their busy little alphabets, and none of them will spell the word I know. For 3 days the house walks as if learning a new leg. It stumbles, then remembers itself, then stumbles again. Orders still arrive, by habit more than authority. We obey the way a field obeys snow, by waiting underneath it. The widow's relatives arrive with platters and opinions. They bring their own versions of sorrow and insist the house wear them briefly. The parlour fills with coats that smell like other houses and a colder river. Then the burial, which sounds like a book shut too firmly. Prayers that cannot imagine the work they are asked to do. A wind that can. The ground accepts what it is given because that is the ground's job. It has accepted worse. Men drop handfuls of dirt as if they were paying a toll. The bell rings again, careful to ring exactly the same for this man as for any other muscle it has been asked to flex. Fairness looks like that sometimes, the same sound for different weights. By the week's end, the neighbours decide to be brave. They begin to say the word accident as if it were a warm coat they are helping the widow put on. The newspaper prints it because print likes words that can be folded. The constable nods as if he had suggested the word himself. The doctor shaves. We, those who do not write the words that get printed, keep our mouths and let our eyes do their careful work. We exchange nothing that can be intercepted. Our backs straighten imperceptibly. A small laugh returns to a boy's mouth when he forgets not to. An old woman sleeps without the little cry she had taught her body to deliver at midnight. The ledger inside me, long as a winter, does not close. Ledgers never close. They become a book you shelve, and sometimes you take it down and read a page to remind yourself what numbers can do. The house chooses a new master. They always do. Keys must clatter on some waist or the house feels naked. The new clatter is less certain. It trembles before it rings. The bell waits, ready to be told what to do next. It does not question its purpose. Bells are honest that way. Time walks away from the event but does not leave it. It carries it like a small stone in its shoe, annoying on some days, instructive on others. The house resumes its grammar. Spring arrives with its green politeness, then summer with its hot impatience. Seasons take turns being the colour on the walls. People assume seasons are in charge. They are not. Memory is. In town they tell the story the easy way because easy stories travel faster and never run out of breath. He drank too much, the chair betrayed him, the cord was mischievous, the bell slept. Old men at the store add flourishes. How he once arm-wrestled a man and caught with both hands. How he chased a boy and caught him by the collar of his name alone. The story forgives him for being human. The story does not ask who taught the cord to be an answer. But there is another telling, and it does not use the mouth. It uses the space between people when they pass. It uses the way a hand lingers half a second longer on a shoulder in the yard, a touch that says we are not entirely at the mercy of what has been. It uses the small way a child is allowed to laugh without fear of the quick hiss that used to follow. It uses the hush that falls when the bell rings, not the hush of obedience, but the hush of respect paid to a new kind of hour. Once, in harvest, a stranger asks me for a story. He is not from here, he is passing through the way a cloud passes, dropping shade so brief no one would bet on it returning. He says he has heard that the house had a winter where something learned its limit. He expects a marvel. I say we had a winter once where the cold counted very well. He laughs, disappointed, and goes to find a man who will sell him a tale more loudly. I walk the yard, and the yard walks me. The bell rope hangs the way old sermons hang, present, a little worn, still able to command attention if asked. I touch it once on a still evening when the house is listening to other things, not to ring, to remember the rope is only rope. It has forgiven itself for what it did not do and for what it did. Forgiveness is a craft best practiced by tools. People are slower to learn it. Children grow into new height, into new voices. Some nights, when the air smells of iron and earth, someone hums a tune that belongs to no hymn, but has in it the shape of an old ache, turning into something else. The tune does not travel far. It is not a bird. It is a room with a lamp in it, and the door cracked to let in a better draught. Years will throw their dust, names will be exchanged. The newspaper with its brave italics will become brown and sleep in drawers, or be used to wrap a plate. Someone will say the death was ordinary and be very sure. Someone else will nod because nodding is cheaper than a quarrel, and yet the house will keep a different record, a slight thickening of silence on winter nights, a reluctance of the chair to be sat in by a certain shape of pride, a wariness in the bell when asked to announce excess. They will say, legend, they always do when a truth has learned to live without permission. They will say there was a slave named Peter who strangled his master on Christmas night. They will say they cannot prove it because silence keeps its receipts in a drawer no one can open. They will say Peter walked out one night and never returned, or that he stayed all his life and let the story do the walking. They will say the cord worked like a snake. They will say the house swallowed its shout. They will say the bells in town rang that night with a mistake in them that no one has ever been able to correct. What I will say is simpler, and I will say it to no one out loud. There comes an hour when a ledger, kept faithfully in the dark, presents itself to the day with the handwriting of winter. The day, which prides itself on brightness, cannot read it at first. Then it does. And when it does, a breath that has ordered others learns the first humility it has ever known. If you pass that house in December and the river is wearing its thin glass voice, look up at the bell. If it seems to lean a fraction of an inch away from the door, as if listening to a different master than the one who pulls it, do not be afraid. The world is full of small corrections that no law wrote. And if, at the edge of a night that smells of orange peel and pine, you feel the air draw tight for a second, as if a line had been drawn across it, and something unclean asked to step over, know this: the old stories are not as old as we think. Justice is not loud, it is exact. It leaves a mark that looks, to men in a hurry, like a shadow. It leaves a silence that rings in a throat long after the bell is still. The ledger remains unfinished because we remain. Pages wait, winter comes, hands remember their grammar. Somewhere a rope hangs, minding its business. Somewhere a house leans an ear toward the hour it cannot name. Somewhere a man measures the distance between his breath and his patience, and discovers they are the same length. The bells will ring again, they always do, but some winters, if you are listening, you will hear what else has learned to speak.